In this week's episode of the Break the Cycle podcast, we are talking all things life transitions. We discuss the types of life transitions, whether they're voluntary or involuntary, and then also the 5 categories of disruptors and, how micro to macro they can be and which ones are just a ripple in the waves versus an actual life quake. Join us today. We're going to be diving in here to a brief video, and we'll see you in the episode.
I mean, I don't know. Do people really change?
I think they do.
Yeah, but I mean, they still stay who they are, pretty much.
I think we change all the time.
I think we stay the same, but grow, I guess, a little bit.
I think if you're growing, then you're changing.
But I mean, we're changing from who we are, which we always stay as.
Not really. I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't. Oh, Annie, these are my kids.
Oh.
Step kids.
Step.
Oh. They're so hilarious.
Funny.
Okay, are we constantly in change, or do we stay the same more or less?
Scientists say that every 7 years, your cells completely regenerate and you are a totally different person than you once were 7 years prior. Isn't that crazy?
Why 7?
I don't know. 7 years is what they say, because I always used to think about that because I would swallow my gum and I'd be like, how long is it going to stay inside of me? And then, my brother would say, well, give it 7 years and you should be good.
It's great advice from your older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think that people are constantly changing?
I mean, it's not that I think. I know people are constantly changing. Every day you're changing. You're metabolizing the food inside of your body, the thoughts inside of your head.
What do you think, Kyla?
I think that, obviously, like, people change, right? Like, people can change. I think it takes time, though. I don't think, like, overnight I wake up and I'm like, I'm somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, my cells, obviously, it takes time. Like, I'm obviously not who I was when I was 10, right? Like, I'm an adult now. I've developed. But I also think, like, our core values and, like, morals that we grew up with that were, like, ingrained in us.
Yeah.
That those take a while to change if you want them to change or if you're trying to get them to change. Like, my views on some things that I've grown up with have totally changed completely. Yeah. But I do still have, like, good morals and values that I was ingrained with.
Yeah. I think people evolve, right? I think it's like people stay the same, but there's a slight 10, 15, 20% of change,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With new stimuli, new people. I think major life events could really make you change.
Yeah.
But I think you also remain, like, who you are. I think those formative years of the first 18 are, like, so ingrained in everything that you do, your reactions, your responses, your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And you will continue to react a certain way,
Until you learn not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even that, I think it's to your point, like, it takes time, right? It takes time. But yeah, ever changing. This episode's all about making life transitions. When was the last time that you, Danny, have been in a life transition?
The last time I've been in a life transition depends on, like, how, like, the magnitude of the life transition, because I feel like I undergo them, like, honestly, on a weekly basis. Like, for example, like, we just hired, like, 3 new people, and it's like, that's like a transition of sorts, right? Like, having more people and, like, changing, like, your workflow and things like that. Maybe more of a micro transition. But in terms of, like, a big life transition, I would say, like, honestly, starting Cycle is probably the biggest life transition I've had in the past few years. And it's changed everything for both of us in the best way possible. So,
well, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Kyla? When was the last time? I'm thinking of something for you. I don't know if you're going to receive the same. Or say the same thing.
I would say probably getting Pearl.
I was thinking the same thing as you're petting her.
Yeah, like, definitely. I think that's, like, been, obviously, it's my whole mindset on a lot of things have changed. And, like,
And who's Pearl?
Pearl is my little girl, my lovely pup.
My fur baby, for those that are listening.
Yeah, she is. It was just, like, a change, like, because I have never had, like, an animal that was mine or, like, that I took care of, and, like, it was, like, a responsibility, right? But, like, even in my day-to-day, like, a life change is like walking her, getting out and like, you know, taking her on a walk and like feeding her and taking care of something and not just myself.
Yeah.
Is definitely, I think, a huge life transition.
Yeah.
Like I have plants and stuff, but like I'm not like out walking the
Water those suckers every day.
like I don't have to like walk them, you know what I mean? Like I've got to walk her, I've got to feed her. Obviously I can water them and like hang them and like put them in sunlight and like clip them, but she's like an actual living, breathing, like plants are living and breathing, but it's just a different, she's got like a brain and like she breaks an arm, you know, plants, you can just clip off their little leaves and
They'll grow back.
What about you, Elijah? When's the last time you had a major life change?
I'm in the midst of transition right now.
Rough. Growing phase.
What sort of transition?
I'm moving, and I think that's a life transition.
I hate moving.
Hate it. Well, bigger and better, definitely.
Of course.
I've been at this place for 5 years.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been
Since
a while.
COVID?
Since COVID. I came back from China. I was like popping around to sofas for a few months.
Couch
and then
surfing.
I landed. Yeah, I was surfing them couches, landed in my home. And I remember being like for 9 months in COVID, like what the fuck's going on? Not just life or work, but it was also living. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to find a place. I'm going to like lay my little roots and I'm going to like grow and I'm going to water myself every day and I'm going to move. So moving into the spot, I was in a state of a lot of unknowns in my life, but the physical space was a state of consistency, right?
Yeah.
And over the 5 years, it's been a state of consistency. And throughout those 5 years, it's allowed me to foster consistency at work, consistency in relationships, consistency in other areas. And now that element, I moved out, 2 days ago, and that element,
It's been removed.
It's been removed. And even me like driving, I have all my fucking suitcases in my car. And I'm so blessed. I'm at a friend's house, so I have a place to stay. It's not like I'm on Skid Row or homeless, but not in a U-Haul like Kyla once was. But yeah, I'm going through that big life transition, and I will talk to friends or, you know, random people. And when they're going through life transitions, I'm like, it's not that deep. Like, contrast isn't supposed to last. It's supposed to teach you something. It's not fucking deep, dude.
Yeah.
I am out there in the middle of the ocean, hitting those waves with my floaties, and I'm gulping water, and I'm just like,
And you got to haul your suitcases with you.
yeah, exactly. Horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is that deep, these life transitions, or at least this one for me. For me, like environmental is really important, and I like consistency.
100%.
And to not have that, it's challenging, and a lot of things have been coming up. So it's been like 2 weeks of just trying to keep myself in a good mental state.
Yeah.
And I don't have my next apartment. I'm going to be traveling for 2 weeks. So even that, where I'm like, I'm in midair, I don't know where I'm going to land.
Yeah.
And that in itself is also
You haven't found a place yet?
creating anxiety.
Oh.
No.
Yeah. You bring up a funny point too, because it's like, I feel like a lot of your friends will come to you when they're in the midst of life transitions, and you're always like, it's not that deep. Like,
you got this.
Contrast not
Persevere.
supposed to
Yeah,
last.
deep breath.
And then
breath.
meanwhile, you're just like submerged underwater.
Help me!
And then everyone's just returning the sentiment like, dude, it's not that deep, bro.
Just a storage
In
unit.
theory, yeah, it's in storage, and I have friends that help me move, and even the move was
Oh,
like,
the move was a bitch, dude.
Yeah, Danny
He has
was out there
friends.
helping
It was
me.
Me and Marla. Shout out Marla.
yeah, shout out Marla's right.
But yeah, Elijah rented a 15-foot U-Haul. We packed it to the brim, and then
U-Haul, smart.
proceeds to rent a 5x10 storage unit. And I'm like, bro, you just got to match the size of the U-Haul to the storage
How
unit
much
at the
stuff do
very
you
least.
have?
Okay, I'm thinking that I'm like, let me get the biggest U-Haul. Let me just load that bitch up and then make one trip. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to take any mini trips, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I had no idea that it was going to be as much stuff as it was. Turns out it was a lot. It
There's
was
a lot of stuff. So they tell you the length and the width of the U-Haul or the storage unit, but they don't tell you the height. So that's where we were able to
Yeah.
still manage to
But mind
get
you, I
everything
got the
in there
U-Haul. I
somehow.
got the public storage prior to the U-Haul.
Oh, okay.
So I was just kind of scrolling through, and I was like, what feels right? And
Large, medium,
Yeah.
small.
We stacked boxes 20 feet, dude.
yeah, it was high. But we got everything in there. We played Jenga. It was not just a physical challenge. It was also a mental challenge. I feel like I was on Survivor for a second.
That's the one thing. Just moving is such a pain in the. Everybody hates it. Everybody hates moving.
It depends on where you're moving to.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It could be God's
The
green
act
earth.
of moving is a bitch.
But it's also, it's not just a physical move. It's like going through all your shit.
Yes.
Packing up. What do I got to throw out? What do I want to keep with me?
What do I donate?
Yeah. And then, you land on a picture.
Yep.
And you're like sucked into a 20-minute hole of memories.
Yes.
And you're like, fuck. I need to be working. You know what I mean? So I think it's mentally, emotionally, and physically straining in various ways.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
They say it's like number 2 on the list of most difficult
Life
things to
changes.
endure,
Yeah.
like behind divorce.
Moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Moving's up
easy.
there.
The highest cause of stress.
And I kudos to you, because every time that I moved, I've had a backpack.
Yeah.
Lost everything because I've been on a run. So it is like you've got dish, like you don't think about how much stuff you have because you got it like all neatly like put together.
Yeah.
And I plan on moving soon. Like I've been at my place for the last 2 years, and like I've been like looking at places, and then I sit back and I'm like, oh,
The idea of,
just how much stuff. Like,
well, if you need movers, we're also cycle movers. We've done it many
a
times.
great
Danny's
company.
made many of moves.
I'm
At
sure
least
he has.
Yeah.
2
I
Salt Lake
stay
back.
moving.
Yeah, he stays on his toes.
Yeah. I've been back and forth between LA and Salt Lake City for like the past 6 years. I've moved probably 4 times in between them. So
Props for Danny.
it's like, yeah,
Easy
part of the
peasy.
game.
But you're also a light load,
Yeah. I don't have a lot of shit.
yeah.
where I felt like I wasn't a light load. Well, I only had 2 suitcases when I came back from China, and then I accrued all this stuff, and I was like, where the fuck
Yeah.
does this all come from?
Yeah.
You know? It's all
Yeah.
good stuff, but it's accrued. So that's the life transition that I'm going through. But I think people could go through many different life transitions. You could go through a breakup, whether it's with a romantic relationship or a friendship,
Death.
you know?
Or you could meet someone new, right? And then transition into a new relationship or
Yeah.
friendship.
Yeah.
100%.
And that would be a transition too. I think it's it goes both ways, with any of these transitions. You could be moving out, but you're also moving in.
I feel like
You
I
know?
go through phases. Like I'm like, oh, that was my fentanyl phase,
Mm.
or that was like my ex, boyfriend phase, or like whatever I was like into at the time, or like that was when I was like U-Haul phase, or like, of course, some of them overlap, but like
Eras.
that was my OnlyFans phase.
The chapters
you
of
know?
your autobiography, just read fentanyl.
Yeah.
Or like that was
Josiah.
That was my trip to
OnlyFans.
Spokane, Washington
For
phase.
sure.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
somewhere I spent.
Taylor Swift Eras Tour.
Yeah, like it was literally, that's how I view my life, because, and sometimes you don't realize how good a phase could be until you're out of it and you're like transitioning to a new one. And I'm like, damn, I wish I was still in my, XYZ phase or whatever it was. Or
You could reminisce, like
Yeah.
go through photos and be like, that era was crazy.
totally, yeah.
Why? Like, how did I get there? How was I living that life? Like, I feel like that with the promoter phase.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then also now to see how far you've come as well.
Yeah.
To then reflect back, you're like, it's been a night and a day and a year and a fucking many of millennials.
phase.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
It's really difficult too, because like growth, I don't feel like is linear, right? And so as you like reflect on the other phases of your life, it's really easy to compare your current phase to a previous one and the pros and cons of both. When in reality, it's like a chart, it's like it's going to go up and down and fluctuate, and that's really difficult to come to terms with too. It's like
yeah.
it's not an upward trend always. You might
Unfortunately.
you might be on the path to greatness, but you had to take 5 steps back and redirect, and that's really like been the most difficult thing for me as it pertains to life transitions, honestly.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I just feel like when I graduated college, I felt like I had achieved all my objectives, like going into it and graduating, obviously, but then also running my business, and the amount of money and my relationships were all very like dialed, and I felt super healthy. And then I had to ultimately let go of all those things to let this opportunity come to fruition through this crazy journey that we've been on. And it felt like I was regressing for like at least a couple of years before I ultimately am in a position to be at an even higher vibration. You know what I mean?
Okay, and then tell me about that regression period. Do you feel like you had to go through that to inevitably lead to where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, it was required. Fortunately or unfortunately, but it was part of the game. Unfortunately, I think it was really hard to honestly sit in that state of isolation and like not have the things that I had materialistically or like relationship wise and the sort of affection, and just be in like a vacuum of intimacy, as I've referred to it as. So difficult to just sit there patiently and continue showing up every day into like the unknown, you know?
What's a vacuum in intimacy?
There's like, I just felt like I was in a void, like just floating in space with like, I was kind of in this intermediary gap where I had outgrown my old friends and I knew that I didn't want to live a very similar lifestyle and trajectory as them. But then also I wasn't developed enough to
Go
like
into it.
attract my new ones. And so I was in this like purgatory gap of like intimacy and friendship
Limbo.
and connection, where I was like, I don't want to like regress and just like, okay, I'm gonna go get a 9-to-5 in my hometown and like be able to like have some semblance of success. But also it was so difficult to show up into the uncertainty and like know that there was something bigger for me and that I would meet new people along the journey, like Elijah and everyone else here, you know?
Yeah, the unknown's scary.
Scary.
It's so scary.
It made, when you were saying all that, it made me think like voluntary versus involuntary like transitions. Like how many of them are you proclaiming yourself versus how many of them
happen to you?
Yeah, and you just have to react.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think, whether or not you want the transition ultimately has a lot to do with how well it goes, you know, and how easy it is, you know?
Yeah. When have you, Kyla, had to go through an voluntary life transition where you're like, I'm going to choose to do this?
I would just say recently I bought a car. So I've been without a car since 2021. So bus,
4 years.
metro, Uber.
Plane. Another plane.
So like that in of itself is a voluntary choice. You know, like I sought out, you know, places to like take me, like I'd get a loan, like started applying, you know, to make that decision, started to like save up for the down payment. And like that was a voluntary like transition going from not having a solid source of transportation and then making a jump into now taking on a responsibility and a transition into making a car payment, having a car insurance, getting plates and the stickers, getting, I don't even know, gas, like all the things that come with it. And that to me, I was so fearful of doing that and making that choice. But I was like, I've got to do it at some point, you know, like I have to jump at some point. And I thought I was ready. So I bought the car.
Woo!
I'm in. Woo.
Congrats. It's a
Thank
beautiful
you.
car.
Big on the
too.
wheels. Big on the wheels.
Kyla has
Beep,
the best
beep,
car
beep,
out of
beep.
everyone
He
here.
thinks it's the best car.
Yeah. You're
It's-
rolling up. You
Yeah,
own
you
this
got
parking
red
lot.
He's got a
velvet
Tesla.
interior.
You're owning
You have
this.
an Acura STX Plus hybrid.
I wouldn't want to see you on the 405.
Oh man, that thing, it goes so fast. Like it's literally like a sports car. Like
Sick.
people think I'm racing them and I'm like,
And you are
win.
playing Mario Kart in your head.
yeah, it's a really nice car. And I'm really grateful that I'm able to get to this point, and have been able to voluntarily make this transition. You know, it wasn't like it was a voluntary choice. Like it was a choice, you know, like I didn't get like pressured into doing it. Well, kind of, but
Yeah.
it was definitely a choice that like I made, and I was ready to transition and take like a new step in a new direction. What about you? Voluntary transition.
Voluntary. I guess I think of the bigger ones like moving to a different country or a different state. I think that those post graduating, I was like on the East Coast, came to the West Coast, really big transition, learned a lot, met a lot of people. And when I was about to graduate, I was like, I want to kind of throw myself into another deep end. So being able to make that voluntary decision to go to China, I think allowed me just to put myself in a place where like I would test my confidence.
Yeah.
So, and then inevitably it was involuntary coming back here. But yeah, I feel like putting yourself in new environments, like physical new environments around new people, always allows you to test yourself in different ways.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever voluntarily went into like a new environment. I feel like I was like forced to almost sometimes, whether that's been like rehab or like new city, like coming out to California, for example. Like I didn't make that decision, you know? So it's interesting how you are the different life paths.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for COVID, who knows, you'd still be in China right now.
For sure.
Like we would not be sitting on this couch,
100%.
you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. And now as I go through this life transition on moving, like, which I'm staying in LA, it was more involuntary because my roommates were like, one was like, hey, I'm moving, so we're going to fill the room, which is totally okay. He wanted to get a job. And the other one, like 30 days prior to the first of the month, he's like, hey, I'm also moving as well.
I would have been like, hey, thanks for the heads up.
Right. And I got hit. We were in Iceland for a conference and I was so sick that day. Like, I didn't want to pack my bag. I was like, fuck, like if I get on a plane right now, it's going to be a 12-hour plane back to LA. And like, I'm going to get a sinus infection. It's just going to be horrible. And then I got hit with this text and I was like, cool. Thanks, Jay Christ.
Great timing.
And everyone else up there. Like, kick me while I'm down. And this one is involuntary, which all my other ones have been voluntary.
Yeah.
So now being involuntary, it's almost easier if it's voluntary because you prep yourself and you're like, I'm going to make this move versus it being unexpected. I think that's also part of trying to process through a life transition.
Yeah. And it's so sudden too. It's not like you get to plan or prep. You're like, oh, I gotta
30 days.
Yeah.
And yeah, with running a business and you're busy with other life things, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's difficult when life transitions are involuntary. They just kind of hit you and they hit you.
And I think that's what makes me so fearful about making a voluntary decision sometimes, because I've always been so forced to be in a involuntary.
Point, yeah.
Like you thinking about hearing you being like, oh, it's so much easier to like make a choice. But for me, it's the opposite. If I have to plan something or like make a decision, I get too scared because of the unknown. Like I'm fearful of the what if I don't like it? What if I like, even when I had to make this voluntary move into this apartment from like a halfway house, like sober living, I was like, the first night there, it was like silent. And I'm used to like having roommates, like some girl snoring next to me, like, and that's how I lived for so long. And so to be in that environment, like it gave me anxiety, like showing up and like moving a bed in. You
That's
know what
fascinating.
I mean?
Like it's almost like the
fearful.
peace, like gave you like your nervous system, like some
crashed
form
me.
of stress.
Yeah.
Like
This is
just having your own
Yeah.
space without people
was
snoring and causing
very
chaos
weird.
around you.
Yeah. It was very bizarre. And I got used to it, but I remember like throwing myself in the shower, like having a panic attack. Like
my
I need to
gosh.
go back. Like I
Yeah.
was crying. Like I was just fearful that I was going to tear it all down again.
Yeah.
But look at you. You keep on climbing.
Keep on
Life
climbing.
Yeah,
transitions.
you're just making voluntary decision after the next, which is great because I feel like you have a sense of agency in that place. You know, like even coming to work with us, like you reached out to us and you're like, I'm going to take destiny into my own hands.
Yeah.
And then,
That was
you
a
know,
tough call. Yeah, that was
you're
scary.
just like making jumps and getting Pearl and getting a car and like really taking ownership of your own life, which is amazing to see.
Agency over your own life
Yeah.
Wow.
is sexy.
Because even though there's uncertainty, it's much more fulfilling to feel like you put your target on something and then stepping into it, you know?
When you make the jump too, and then you're like,
yeah.
I'm still mid jump, so I can't fucking wait till
Yeah.
I'm on the other side. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I fucking did that.
Yeah.
I showed up.
Yeah, that's how you build confidence.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and resilience.
100%.
And even if you're a little bit banged up, you got to, you know, you still made it to the other
Crawling.
side. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Busted out fucking knee.
Yeah. Right.
Walking Dead type. So we talk about involuntary and voluntary life transitions. There's also certain types of disruptors that could lead to various life transitions.
Okay.
There was a clip that we found on the
Interwebs.
interwebs, TED, TED.
It's a TED Talk.
TED Talk. They're talking about life.
In the ancient world, they didn't have linear time. They thought life was a cycle because agriculture was a cycle. In the Middle Ages, they thought life was a staircase up to middle age, then down. That's no new love at 60, no retiring and opening an Airbnb at 70. Not until 150 years ago did we adopt the idea that life proceeds in a series of stages, like an industrial factory. Freud's psychosexual stages, Erikson's 8 stages of moral development, the 5 stages of grief. These are all linear constructs. This model peaks in the 1970s with the idea that everyone does the same thing in their 20s, the same thing in their 30s, then has a midlife crisis between 39 and 44 and a half. It is hard to overstate how powerful this idea was. There's only one problem. It's not true. Today, we've updated how we look at the world. We understand there's chaos and complexity and networks, but we haven't updated how we look at our lives. That leads to lesson number 2. The nonlinear life involves many more life transitions. I went through every interview I conducted and made a master list of all the ways our lives get redirected. I call these events disruptors. The total number was 52. So I created the deck of disruptors. Some of them are small, like breaking your ankle or a fender bender. Some of them are large, like losing your job or moving. The average person goes through 36 disruptors in the course of their lives. That's one every 12 to 18 months. Most of these we get through with relative ease, but 1 in 10 becomes what I call a lifequake, a massive burst of change that leads to a period of upheaval, transition, and renewal.
Damn. It's like a Temu TED Talk.
Same but different. I'm going through a lifequake right now, I feel like.
Really?
Yeah. It's
You
really
think moving is a lifequake?
5 years post and then wherever I end up. Yeah, I think it's a lifequake for me.
Totally. It's so interesting how different things can be different, like
One out of
lifequakes.
10, maybe not actually. I'm like trying to think of the lifequakes that I've had. Yeah, I would say maybe a mini quake.
You have 10 every, is that what he said? Over your
He
course
said
year?
52.
I know, but life quakes.
Over
One big one every 12 to
Every-
18 months.
No, I think he says one of these smaller ones every 12 to 18 months.
Oh, I
And
thought
then
it was a
out of
lifequake.
10 of them, you have like
God damn.
one really big one. So I'm just like, let's say 5 in theory, if there's 52 of them.
I think I've had
So
a-
this
quite
wouldn't
a bit.
be. Tick, 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 tick.
You
I
knocked
think
him
I've
out.
had several
You knocked him out
lifequakes.
early.
Yeah. Got them out of the way.
That's good.
Surviving homelessness.
And many aftershocks.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, and it's sad because that's the thing. If someone has like spent their life like mine, and not to say that it's bad or like hopefully they've, grown from it, but the big quakes that you go through, every little quake becomes a big quake because you're so fearful that it's going
That's
to turn
fascinating.
into.
You end up bringing it to fruition.
You would almost think that like because you've been through really heavier quakes, you'd be like, this is a 2.2
Sometimes, yeah.
magnitude.
I'm like, that's totally
I've
fine.
had AIDS before.
Yeah.
You know?
I've had AIDS before.
like he's using an earthquake scale.
Eight. I don't have AIDS. But
That wasn't one of my life quakes.
it's not a life quake.
Definitely would qualify as one, I feel like.
I think so.
Probably. But like even that's the thing is like and even for some like people like that are like me, they're like, oh, of course, yeah, I've gotten hepatitis C, like no big deal. But like a normal person would be like, you know what I mean? Like it's a big ordeal.
That's
But
very interesting. It's a matter of like your resilience to
to the
quakes.
situations.
And I think also you could, for some person who's had many STDs, another one's nothing, right?
they're like-
But then like a death of a loved one, it'd take them out.
Right,
Versus
yeah.
if someone's lost many of people, they're like, AIDS is my lifequake.
yeah, totally. Like I just lost somebody yesterday, and I was
Really?
like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
like, you know what I mean? Like and
Another one bites the dust.
And
Who
it
was it?
sucks. That was like, this was a girl that I was at a county funded treatment program with. She had a son. She was really young. Actually, she was missing since the 21st.
Was this the one in jail?
No, actually, I just put money on her books recently
Oh, that's nice.
for her to make phone calls. But this was another one. She had a son. She was really struggling with like BPD. And she had this like older boyfriend that was like 50. And she went missing on the 21st. And he's now in jail. I think he killed her.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
He went the same day she went missing. So I think there's and her
Some
mom
correlation
posted that she's passed. They found her body. And to
That's
me,
a lifequake.
yeah, to me that was like, like we're told to like expect that in recovery.
Okay.
Like
okay.
deaths are common. And like even like I lost my cousin to suicide a couple months ago. Remember that whole thing? And like I grew up with her, like we spent summers together with my grandparents, and like to hear my grandma on the other line being like Amy hung herself, and it was just kind of like,
R.I.P. Amy.
like numbness almost.
Yeah.
But if I God forbid lose a job, it's the world. And I think that has to do with like my safety structure, like the
Yeah.
hierarchy of needs almost.
Yes. And it feels like everyone's is subjective, right? Because same if I mean, it's different if I lost a job. I mean, we're running this company now, but if I lost a job, I'd be like, that's light work,
Yeah.
But for me, like moving a new environment is like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
It's all relative. Danny, do you want to go through some of the deck of disruptors?
Yeah, there's 5 categories here. We have love, beliefs, work, identity, and body. So under love, we have getting married. So these are the deck of disruptors. So getting married, spouse slash beginning, seizing work. Interesting. So if your spouse starts a job,
Totally.
divorce, reproductive difficulties, gaining new family members, illness of child, so on and so forth. Under beliefs, we have starting or ending a new school, adult education, political slash social awakening, personal callings, change in religious beliefs or spirituality. And then under work, we have change in work responsibilities, so getting like a promotion or even a demotion, changing jobs, losing or quitting or getting fired, so on and so forth. Under identity, change in living situation, moving between countries, change in sexual practices, change in gender identity, major change in finances, and then body, accident slash personal injury, chronic illness, mental illness, personal addiction, weight issues, recovery.
Damn.
So on and
Attempted
so forth.
suicide, homelessness, public humiliation, victim of a crime, imprisonment. Damn.
Wow.
Which one of those do you think you've had the most of, Kyla or Elijah?
In which section you mean?
Yeah, which
All
category?
right, so the categories are identity, body, work, love, and beliefs.
I would say identity or body.
Yeah, I would say identity personally.
Body is definitely a big one.
Body, mental health,
Identity or love for me.
aging parent, under love too. I think also it's interesting that they have under beliefs, they have collective events. So like some of these like life quakes could be like COVID, for example, which affected the whole world, or I don't know, maybe like Hurricane Katrina, which affected like New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially for people that are so tuned into the media, like, you know, like a war like across seas could
Like
really
the bombing in Yemen just recently.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
really
It didn't
like,
affect us, but God forbid someone saying, you know, there.
yeah. And there's people that get really like triggered by stuff that's going on across the world. And our nervous systems aren't built to be able to take in all of that trauma, you know? So it's difficult, you know, managing the disruptions in the modern day.
And it's interesting
So many of them.
that if you look at like these like categories, if you don't have like the body and the identity, the other ones don't matter. You get what I'm saying? Like if you are not, like if you don't have your home, like if you don't have a home, right, you don't have a job, right? So if you don't have your identity and like your body and like your health and your identification
build
of
on
who
each
you are,
other.
you can't build up, like I can't get in a relationship, I can't get a job, I can't be even worried about politics because I'm homeless. Like
Because you have no
You'd
sense
be
of identity.
surprised.
You have like,
I feel like it's that's subjective though. It's like people could be like living out their car and they could probably have a boo thing.
yeah, I'm sure they could, but like this, like if they lost the boot, like if they lost their car, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be a bigger event than losing their boo thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think it's relative.
I really think it's like, to me, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is very, very important, which is
Physical needs, the bottom. Physical is at the bottom.
it's the physical hierarchy of needs is a little triangle. There we go. And then I'll tell you something very interesting about it too.
Psychological safety.
Safety. I can't read that. I'm blind.
Self-actualization at the top.
Okay, so we've got physiology, so like your body, safety, feeling safe in like your own home, social, having friends, self-esteem, feeling good, then self-actualization. But if you flip
Bottom
that,
to top.
if you flip that over, that's the addict all the way up, because they don't care about their safety or their body. They don't give a crap about their safety. Self-actualization of just like filling themselves, self-esteem, feeling better. It truly is. If you flip it, it's the opposite. The addict goes the opposite
Fascinating.
way. Yeah.
Really, really interesting. But yeah, I mean, these disruptors happen on a 12 to 18 month basis. So if you're in the midst of a little disruption,
Shit, it's almost time.
yeah, you're like, oh no, we're at month 14.
Oh God, I can't have another one.
Yeah, it's fascinating to kind of see how and what other people could also be going through. And then how relative it is too. It could be something that is a life quake, or it could be something that is just, you know, a life transition that's happening.
yeah. And I feel like your perseverance or resilience towards these deck of disruptors ultimately comes down to like how you feel about yourself while you're by yourself. Like if you can maintain that and keep it constant and know who you are and have a good self identity, it doesn't matter if your work is volatile or you're moving to a new place or you're in and out of a relationship. And that's really why I think the identity really resonates with me, because the parts of my life that have been the most difficult, I feel like I can't recognize my own self or values, you know, and
That's so fascinating.
that can reverberate, I feel like, regardless of anything external.
See, for me, it's like the external factors affect my internal. It doesn't affect the way that I look at myself, and I'm like, I know I'm going to make it through this, but those factors allow stability, which allows me to feel more comfortable, where I'm not like questioning myself or who am I or how I show up in these certain things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, it's the opposite. It starts always
Fascinating.
internal. It's like, if that's locked in, I feel like I can wave any storm.
I feel like I'm a mix of both.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I just, all of this talking has reminded me when I think I was about 10, and I was driving with my father in the car on the way to school, and he was about to get married to like my stepmom, and she was pregnant, and I remember like just being like so frustrated with that. Like, life is changing. I have like brothers. I was an only child for 10 years, and like the newness and the change. And I remember looking over at him and be like, I don't like change. And him just being like, well, you got to get used to it because things change every single day. Yeah. And I was so upset with that. Like, that was not the answer I was looking for, you know? And really just in a space of discomfort because of change. And I feel like that has always been my struggle, is dealing with change. Like, I don't know how to move on. Like, I don't know how to like let go until it's like I'm forced to, almost.
Involuntary. Fascinating. Okay. The other part that I was looking at when doing some research here was also like what happens physiologically during these life transitions, or how do you physiologically deal with change?
The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response. It's what allows us to recognize danger and avoid it. When activated, a class of hormones known as glucocorticoids are released into the bloodstream, which tell the body to prepare for action. The results are things like increased heart rate and respiration, pupil dilation, increased alertness, and a decrease in digestion and reproductive functioning. The parasympathetic is the polar opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. While the sympathetic nervous system prepares us to fight off or run away from danger, the parasympathetic nervous system tells the body to stop releasing those stress-inducing glucocorticoids and bring the body back to homeostasis. This is sometimes known as the rest and digest system because it plays a critical role in sleep, digestion, healing, and healthy immune function. Chronic or prolonged activation of the sympathetic nervous system is a pandemic in our culture, with most of us referring to it as chronic stress. Sapolsky's book points out that an overactive sympathetic nervous system plays a role in the onset and progression of several types of disease, the most prominent being cardiovascular disease. But why is it that this is unique to humans?
That's interesting.
Did you feel that resonated with you, Danny?
Yeah, it was fascinating because I recently did a whole host of different tests, and it came back that like my cardiovascular like health needs support, and I think it's due to something similar where my nervous system was constantly ignited through that kind of 2-year period that I was alluding to, where I didn't really know what to expect and, you know, really have a really strong sense of identity. And ultimately it's so intertwined to your physiological health as well, you know, your mental and your physical.
Yeah, 100%. When you don't know where you are or what the next step is, or you're going through a vacuum of intimacy, TM circle, Danny Costa, you don't know what the hell's happening. Yeah. So it's like, of course, your body's going to have physical reactions as well. So I think that realizing that it's like not just mental and emotional, but it's also physical. Like when you're going through these like transitions, it's physical. I felt that in my body even. I feel like I haven't had time to process like me being in one place for 5 years and literally starting off as like a fucking security guard making minimum wage and now like running a business with multiple people. Like I haven't had the time to process that, right? Like all that space allowed me to get here and be able to do that, and I've grown in that space. But I've just been so like, gotta pack it, gotta do that. That's just like, oh my God. And on Saturday I did my first ketamine therapy session in the past probably like a year, 8 months, because I just felt like stress. Like I was like Friday night and I was like, I want to drink, and I don't ever have that like after a long week, let me go get some red wine and just like drink. Never. And the therapy session was really amazing. in the session, it showed me during this month of transition, I don't have a home, right? But I do have all these plans to see various people. And I was sitting there and I almost like saw my map of my month on like the different people that I would see. Because I'm going to go to the UK, I'm going to see some friends, I'm going to see someone that we work with. I'm with another friend right now. And each and every spot, it was almost like there was a little stardust that was like trickled, and there's going to be positivity that was received and then given as well. And it just allowed me to realize that what I think may be a setback is an opportunity, and look at it like that.
Yeah.
Because these individuals could be giving things to you that you don't even know that you may need. And it's just the universe or God, Allah, Buddha, setting you up for whatever is to come.
Right.
You know?
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like entering the void actually, if anything, can like really rejuvenate your like creative flow. It can like rejuvenate your paradigm, and sometimes it gets easy to just get stagnant and like, you know, get so caught up in the day-to-day, like you're mentioning, where you're just tackling the problems that are in front of you. You haven't even had time to process. And I feel like this time of like openness where you're traveling and meeting new people is going to allow you to like process the experience through them as well, you know what I mean, and really be able to connect the dots.
It's so cliche, but like everything happens for a reason. But like truly,
Everything does.
really, I've had to just like come to terms and 100% acceptance. Like
For sure.
acceptance is all the answer to all my problems today. You know, like just
Yeah,
being
surrender.
literally just being like,
Yeah.
okay,
And as I looked, like the ketamine therapy really gave me so much perspective, because I looked back at all of the things that led me to where I am today. And I was like, damn, everything happened so perfectly. Like
Right.
one moved, the other one was like, I'm moving, the place ended. And I had one friend that was like, come stay. I had another friend that was like, hey, I have an engagement party in London, you should come. My other friend reached out and was like, hey, do you want to stay with me?
Yeah.
Then I had a conference reach out and was like, hey, we have a free ticket. And it was
Wow.
just like, I saw all these little things not like they were connected until I went through the ketamine therapy session, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is all working towards me.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the life currents are changing, and you could either go against the current, or you could just like hop on the surfboard and like let the waves do what they do.
right.
And instead of going against the current, hopping on the board and just like riding that wave and being like, okay, I'm just going to get into a groove of this, stop resisting and just let it do its thing.
Totally.
It's so much easier that way. Like your nervous system is just like relaxed, and despite the uncertainty, like you just feel at peace, you know, you're like, the universe has me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Other days I am treading water and I am big gulps. And other days I'm back on that board and I'm riding them waves. And it's like the guy said on the TED Talk, like it's not linear, you know, like when those emotions come up during a big life transition, let them come up. If you got to give a good cry, give a good cry. And I feel like I will take toxic positivity to a different level, where I'll be like, I won't allow myself to feel the feel. And I'll be like, well, you have fucking 2 arms and 2 legs and you have 10 toes and 10 fingers. And
You can see.
yeah, exactly. Like someone else doesn't have a fucking arm, Elijah. Suck it up, you know? And it's like, no, dude, relax. Like take a deep breath, take a beat, and like allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to be in the transition. Allow yourself to be in the shit. Allow yourself to roll around in the shit and be like, this is kind of uncomfortable, and it's part of the process.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I think that we just as like humans, like we see like, okay, I got to do this. I got like, you were just like, I've got to go to London. I've got to do this. And you're just seeing it as these things instead of like allowing the experience to happen for you and being like, wow, like who knows what's going to come next. And I see it like it takes me a while to get to that point. You know, like I have to like really build myself up to be like, okay, like the reason I got this car and it's not, you know, like all these different things that I've made the decision to do are ultimately like going to put me on my new path to whatever that is. And instead of just being like, oh, it's another car payment, you know, like, oh, it's a bill, instead of being like, this is going to allow me to build my credit, you know, like being able to like really have freedom to go anywhere I want. But it takes me so long to get there, and that's okay. But at the same time, like staying in it is, I think, a lot of people struggle with just staying in it and not getting to the point where you've gotten or where I've gotten. It takes people time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone has different struggles. You know, some people stay in it for a while. Other people don't stay in it for too long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course. course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. The faster you can reframe and you can see the silver lining of things, the easier life's going to be.
How do you feel about imposter syndrome? Like net negative or net positive?
I don't know what that is.
What?
I mean, I've heard the term before, and who knows? I could be.
Imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where individuals experience persistent feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and fraudulence despite their achievements and evidence to the contrary.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Me, an imposter. I think imposter syndrome is like going in and just thinking that you could kind of do something, and then you're doing it, and then you're in the thick of
I
it,
do
and
that
you're
all the
just like,
time.
oh my god, I can't do it. What?
All the time. Literally. Give me a task. Okay, I can do it.
Me in my head, SpongeBob meme, cabinets on fire.
Literally, I feel like I have just walked in and been like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? Like teach myself how to do it. But I feel like that has given me the tools and skills to really be who I am today. And it has led me on, like, I literally just, even in college, like I was like, I'm just going to apply for a theater scholarship and got the scholarship. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to do X, Y, Z. And
Me, an actress.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I just literally was like set up, I'm going to go, audition for this, got the role, like really,
Shooting the
truly
shot.
just shooting the shot.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try heroin. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Too far. You should have stuck to theater. I'm just kidding. I'm glad that you did heroin because you ended up here.
Exactly. But that's what I did. Like, just...
What?
But it took me,
You
understand,
can't regret your life and be like, I
personal
should have never
growth
shot up heroin.
of like
Yeah, you gotta accept
overcoming that. The just like doing it and just doing it truly. I know, like, I'll apply to jobs that I have no experience in, change the resume and lie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'll do it all the time and say, oh, I signed an NDA. You know what I mean? Like, can't talk about my
dyslexia
experience.
thought it was DNA.
Yeah, no big deal. I'll do that all the time. Like, if I was really struggling, and that's how I think I've gotten so far.
Yeah.
Truly,
It's imposter syndrome.
truly
Or
feel
fake it till you make it.
literally just showing up. Like, when I had to move out of that sober living, and like as soon as I got out of treatment and went into sober living, I was like, I'm gonna find a job. Like, first week, got a job. You know what I mean? Like, doing whatever. Thankfully, I had experience in it, but like, I lied. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for
And
years.
I'd do it again.
And like, you know what I mean? And like, same with the apartment, like showing up, just being like, I want to rent this place and applying for this place, being upfront and honest and being like, look, my credit's shit, but like, I can pay the bills, and it's gotten me this far.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you feel like you have faked it till you made it in the midst of a life transition?
Yes, I do.
Just faking it right now.
Yes, I'm doing it right now. Yeah.
Me, I'm a podcaster.
Seriously. No, but I do feel
Just a
like
yapper.
so those 3 new people that we just hired, we did the training for. That really, I feel like solidified, like, okay, like I know what I'm doing. I have the expertise.
You
like,
do know what you're doing.
I am like, I'm here, and being like the youngest person on the team, or, just like working with, it's can definitely
The youngest
surface
person.
more frequently than the normal,
Wow.
Second
Yeah.
youngest.
Yeah, I guess Matt's the youngest now, but
Third youngest. I think what's called under you.
but
Anyways.
needless to say, just being, trying to lead a team and being like a young entrepreneur, it can, imposter syndrome presents itself on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's been
sure.
a few times where like I was like, bro, you got this. Like, I think sometimes it's hard for you to, not you, but you in general, like anyone, realize like the power that you really have.
Yeah.
And also it's funny the way that like you view yourself versus the way that other people view you.
100%.
Because if you do like have that imposter syndrome or you just fake it till you make it, people are like, oh, they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been many times where I'm like,
No idea what I'm doing.
okay,
Yeah.
we're going this way, and
Yeah.
I'm saying it with vigor, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, go that way, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm like, we're going this way.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's an important skill to have. Just stepping into uncertainty with confidence will get you a long way. At the end of the day, you have to back it up. But that first step, if you can make it, your life can change dramatically for the
Dramatically is
better.
correct.
Dramatically for the better.
With all that being said, I feel like in the midst of life transition, it could be messy, it could be difficult, it could be hard, but it's all really part of the process. If you could tell yourselves both when you have been in your toughest life transition. What was your toughest life transition? And if you could give one piece of advice to that individual going through that life transition, what would you tell them? Give some advice to your younger self. What was that? And what would you tell that little guppers?
I would say my toughest transition was probably, God, there's been so many. It's like tough to even like pick one.
Which life quake shook you the most?
I think and I know I always bring this up, but I can remember this moment I was in, like many of rehabs that I've been into. I remember this was like mid-COVID, and like I was in a private paid rehab before like I had turned 26 and I got off my dad's insurance. I was in the shower crying, like sobbing to God, like, please, I don't want to use fentanyl anymore. Like just sobbing. And like that was, I still went right back out and used. I just remember being on the ground in the shower, shaking and like going through withdrawals and like, please, like rid me of this, like just begging, like whatever it is, like water's coming down, you're like, I'm naked on the bathroom floor, you know what I mean? Just
I
like
see it. I got the visual.
dirty crying.
HR.
And like just sobbing. And obviously it took some time until like I finally got it. But like if I could go back and just be like, let it ride, you know what I mean? Like do what you got to do and get through it. You will get through it, and just like keep trying. Because if I were to ever tell myself like I give up on trying to get sober, like trying to get better, like I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Like if I did not just keep trying, be like, okay, another rehab, you know what I mean? Like, okay, another rehab.
And try you did. Look at you now.
Exactly. And I really think if the piece of advice that I would give myself, fuck it, dog, life's a risk.
Fuck it, dog, life's a risk.
Truly.
Fiddler.
Nice.
My favorite band that you showed me. Fuck it, dog,
Have you
life's a
even
risk.
listened to him?
Fiddler.
Never. Not once. You
Cue
just told me-
Fiddler clip.
Yeah.
That's Kyla's favorite band.
Yeah.
Dog shit. Just kidding. I love it.
Okay, so biggest life transition, getting sober, and then piece of advice, fuck a dog, life's a risk, ride the wave. Okay.
Totally.
Daniel?
Yeah. So my biggest life transition was when I graduated college. I feel like a lot of my identity also resided in being like an academic and doing really good in school, and like being able to quantify my success and achievement through this like ABC grading model just like gave me a lot of dopamine and self-identity. So when that went to shit, or I graduated, you know, with flying colors, but when that ended, simultaneously got out of a relationship and lost a lot of Dogecoin investments, I was just distraught and I had no idea what to do. And again, I was in that intermediary stage between, do I just go live the traditional path and get a 9-to-5 and live in my hometown and just, you know, have some semblance of relative success, or do I just burn the boats and say, fuck it, dog, life's a risk? And I would give myself the same advice, actually. Fuck a dog's life's a risk. I'm so glad I took that advice. But if I had someone to push me, which Elijah obviously served as one of those forces, it would have been a lot less unnecessary distraughtness in my life, you know, just like depletion or like, you know, insecurity, quite frankly. It would have been much better if I would have just, you know, gone all out from the get-go and didn't have those hesitations internally to go back to, you know, just the traditional life path. So
like playing it safe is like,
yeah, exactly. Don't play it safe, especially, you know, in these live chapters.
no, play it safe.
Yeah. Do not pick up heroin.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? But
100%.
like, try to bring your life's passion and mission into this earth, because that's all we're here for. You know, it's like, what are you going to leave behind? You know, I can't tell you my great grandpa's name, you know, my great grandpa even. Like, all I know is that he was a really good guy and he was an entrepreneur too, you know? So it's like he left back a legacy. Like, what are you going to leave behind, you know?
Shout out great grandpa.
Yeah. Shout out great grandpa.
What about you?
I was thinking the year 3000 Jonas Brothers to your great granddaughter.
Yeah.
But
I'm so glad you made the decision to like get off the farm and
Yeah. Get out of Utah and
get out of the
come out here to
Mormonism.
the big city.
Start lots.
But I think you would have done well, like knocking on doors and been like,
Yeah, your little.
Yeah, I enjoyed
In another
doing
world,
door
you
sales.
probably would have 4 kids working on your 5th right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Exactly. That's kind of like what I was like, you know.
Spreading that seed.
Yeah. But I'm glad
HR. I would say my biggest life quake was self-induced moving here to California, and
Like for school?
for school,
voluntary.
Yeah.
I got out here, and I remember like my mom left, and I was like, I'm alone.
My mommy's gone.
And I don't have anyone. And I just sat on that bed and I sobbed. Like
Yeah.
I could hop into the emotion right now. I was like, I'm alone in
Oh my God, your eyes
California.
are getting watered.
I was like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
I can't, you know? And then I like wiped my tears and I was like, you have nothing left. You go and you figure it the fuck out. And figure it the fuck out, you do and you will. And I think when you're in the midst of a life transition, like you have to almost like wipe those tears away, and you have to look at yourself like you're your own best friend, and like give yourself compassion, give yourself self-love, and then give yourself a swift kick in the ass and be like, you didn't make it this far just to make it this far.
Yeah.
So keep on keeping. So I'm glad that I kept on keeping because I'm here now. And
Piece of advice.
piece of advice is keep on keeping.
Keep on keeping.
Keep on keeping. Just show up and day by day. And when it's like really difficult, just think week by week or day by day or hour by hour.
Minute by minute.
Yeah. Like all you have to do is like get through. And life has its really amazing ebbs and flows. And like if you are in an ebb, you have to be in the ebb to enjoy the flow. Like you have to have a rainy day to find the silver lining and see the rainbow. Like if you just had fucking rainbows all day, it'd be pretty boring.
Yeah, it's true. You need the yin with the yang. It's an integral part, and it makes the rainy days that much, or rather the sunny days that much more enjoyable
Yeah.
too. You know?
Because if you didn't have winter, you wouldn't really enjoy summer.
Yeah, you take it for granted. Like everyone
True.
here in Los Angeles just takes it for granted.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a transport, and then people are like, "Oh, the weather's so nice year
It's
round."
like 65.
But if you're from here, you're like, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, fuck a dog, life's a risk. Takeaways. Keep on keeping. You're probably going to go through a life transition every like 12 to 16 months. So know that it may be coming around the corner, and just
If you're in the midst of one now,
take it with ease.
keep on keeping.
Keep on keeping. And you will continue to go through life transitions, probably easier and harder than you are right now if you are going through one. So just realize it's part of the human experience, and perspective is really important. And if you got through one before, God knows that you're going to get through this next one.
Do it again.
And I'll do it again.
I'll do it again. If you need help breaking a cycle, or you're in a rough patch and you need a little bit of TLC from your cycle squad, we can help you find a mental health therapist. We can help you find some ketamine therapy if that's necessary. It really helped me this past week. Like, swear by it. So grateful for it. TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Sometimes these life transitions could be very difficult, and it may cause situational anxiety, situational depression. And if you need a little bit of help and love from a mental health professional, we can get you connected with one. So please check us out, cyclehealth.com. Thank you so much for listening, and appreciate you hopping in on this convo on life transitions.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.